right, today we are talking about mineral resources, both metallic and non-metallic resources. Metallic minerals and mineral ores are something we talked about in Natural Wonders already. So an ore is a rock that contains enough metal to be mined for a profit. So it has to have enough, let's say, iron or copper or gold in that rock that you can mine the rock out of the ground. You can crush it and break it apart and extract the metallic mineral you're looking for, and then sell that mineral for a profit. Okay, paying off everything that you had to do to get it out of the ground, you can cover that cost and still end up with a profit, and then you have an ore. Next, we're going to look at how these mineral resources form. And again, most of this is review from when we talked about mineral formation. And that brings us to the igneous process, or just minerals forming from magma. And magma, again, being made out of ions, and when the magma cools, those ions, they produce bonds, and they produce mineral crystals that then settle out of the magma and accumulate into mineral layers. The next way these metallic minerals can form is through hydrothermal vein deposits, hydrothermal solutions, hot water. Again, this hot water, sometimes it's the remains of a magma chamber. Okay? In magma, there's a lot of water. And the magma itself will cool and solidify at 2, 3, 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? And that's going to mean we have a lot of leftover, very hot water that contains elements in the form of ions. As that hot water gets forced away from the magma chamber, it spreads out into these cracks surrounding the magma chamber. And as it cools off, those ions produce bonds and they deposit minerals, things like copper and gold. The very last place we can find these metallic mineral deposits are called placer deposits. And the best way to kind of think about a placer deposit is really thinking about panning for gold. Those old school miners that rushed out to California in the gold rush, the process they would use looking for gold. And it's really just a separation based on density. These metallic minerals are often a lot more dense than just dirt and other sediment that they might be surrounded by. So just like the gold rush miners did, okay, they found a way to use water to separate out what they wanted, the dense minerals, from the stuff they didn't want, just the dirt. They would take a scoop of dirt and put it in water, and they would tilt their pan and shake their pan and allow some of that less dense material to spill out of the pan. And they would repeat that process, getting more water, shaking and tilting their pan, until eventually, if they're lucky, the most dense metallic minerals would be caught along these ridges on the bottom of their pan. And that's where they would find their gold. As important as metallic mineral resources are to our way of life, non-metallic mineral resources are just as important. So these are the ones that aren't gold and copper and iron, but they're still minerals that come from the earth that we use all the time. Non-metallic mineral resources usually get broken into two groups. Okay? They're either going to be used for building material or they're going to be used for industrial material. And if we use a non-metallic mineral resource as building material, it's usually used for its physical properties, like limestone. We can make big blocks of limestone, stack them up, and create very tall buildings from limestone. Another example might be aggregate. Okay? Aggregate is a combination of gravel and sand and all of those different sizes of materials all mixed together. And we can dig aggregate out of the ground, we sift it and sort it, and we use sand and gravel for all sorts of building. The other way that we use non-metallic mineral resources is in industry. So what pops into my head is how they manufacture steel. Once they melt and create the steel, okay, the metal, they might have a big beam that holds up the school's roof. Okay, the last step in forming that steel beam that's going to be put in a building is someone walks around with powdered limestone, and they sprinkle that limestone powder on the surface of the steel, and as it cools, that limestone helps increase the tensile strength of the steel, how much it can really, the weight it can bear. So although non-metallic mineral resources might seem like they're not as important as our metallic resources, they play a huge part in our everyday life. That's going to be it about mineral resources. If you have any questions, please make sure to ask.